All right, thank you, Brooke. Now we want to get to the issues with Congressman Zinke. If you've been watching our news this morning, homelessness and housing continue to lead our headlines right now, with more and more of our cities dealing with the homelessness issue. What needs to be done?
Well, sanctuary cities are a problem, aren't they? And homelessness is, you have mental health, you have economic despair, and you have illegal immigration. So there's, all of it's connected. So certainly in Montana, the homelessness issue, there are people that need a hand up, absolutely. But there are also people that are mentally ill, that have checked out, that are drugs, and choose this lifestyle. And it's an effect in Montana. Our kids, our parks, when you have homelessness around, and what comes with it. You have drugs, you have illicit behavior. It's a problem in Montana.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court recently made a ruling about it. I've seen states like California take some action in regard to the Supreme Court.
Well, and property owners, business owners, we have rights too on there. Our cities need to be safe. Missoula's had a long history, but when Missoula becomes unsafe, when neighbors feel like their neighborhood can't have the kids go out, well, we have a problem. Now, all that can be fixed. A lot of it is policy. A lot of it is looking at the core problems of it. Housing. Look, when you have an economy that is spend, tax, and regulation, we all feel it. And you look at the fundamentals of the economy when inflation is high, gas prices are high. Look, when I was secretary, gas was around $2 a gallon. It is inexcusable that prices are so high because this administration's policies are wrong. They're 180 degrees out where they should be.
We've even had some cities trying to do things like offer developers deep incentives to put up affordable housing. In Bozeman, I'm thinking of the Guthrie project. But neighbors even came out against that, saying, hey, these rents still aren't low enough.
Well, you look at housing, all right? When you have, the average price of a house, a new house in Bozeman is over $1 million. That's just a bridge too far for most of Montanans. You have to look at why costs are so high. Well, when inflation is high, interest rates, a 3% rise in inflation almost doubles your mortgage. And when 40% of the cost of a house is in permitting, government is not always the right solution. There's the private sector too, lowering the costs in the private sector so builders can build a house. A lot of it goes back to the fundamentals of, look, you cannot have high inflation. You cannot have interest rates high. You cannot have building costs high, energy costs high. And a lot of this is fundamentally at the very basis of our economy. We need to change, and we can. America's a strong country. We have resources here. When I was Secretary on Energy, for instance, we went from 8.3, struggling in energy, to the world's largest energy producer, and we lowered emissions. Because no one does it better than the United States as far as clean, efficient. So if you care about the environment, you want to produce American energy here.
Still talking about the climate, we just had a story this week that the emissions in Bozeman are higher than they were hoping for. They have a plan for the climate, and right now they're not on track for that. So what do we do going forward? Well,
you look at the big ones. China. China produces far more CO2 than the U.S. Again, the U.S. economy is efficient. We're clean as comparison to our allies and our adversaries. Focus on where the problem is. Focus on where India is. Focus on China. Don't focus on Bozeman.
Okay. Northwestern Energy also did just come forward asking to possibly raise rates for electricity and gas.
Well, yeah, because economies matter, and energy isn't free. When you have an administration that goes after American energy, this administration, the Harris administration, would rather take energy from Venezuela than Canada. We are pumping billions of dollars into Iran, having the coffers explode in Russia because this administration is against U.S. energy. That's a problem.
All right, can we quickly talk about the border? We just had a headline that the Biden administration eased up some rules for if you're a spouse of a person in the U.S., you possibly don't have to go back south of the border to continue your application.
Well, the Biden administration has ensured that we don't have a border. We don't have a border. You see it across Montana. There's sex trafficking, child trafficking, drug trafficking in every city in Montana as a result of the Biden-Harris administration. Remember, the borders are, right? We don't have a border. People just come in and say, you know what, I live in fear, and they're automatically processed somewhere in this country. Thousands, tens of thousands of children they've lost track of. We don't know who's in this country. We have thousands of terrorists on the terrorist watch list. Roaming our streets. Enough's enough. We need to secure the border. We need to make sure that we incentivize the right thing. Incentivize doing it right. Incentivize filling out an application. Doing the right thing. Instead, we're incentivizing really bad people. Not all of them are bad, but enough are bad to come across this country with impunity.
I had a viewer ask me to have you clear up questions about your residency. Do you live in Montana or
Isn't
do you
that
live
funny?
in California?
I've been a Montanan for 5 generations. The only time I've lived out of the state when I was actually serving in the military. I've had a driver's license. I've been a resident all my life. My opponent seems it is interesting to go to one of our houses, and criticize that we own a rental. Is there no boundaries anymore of decency? So anyway, I'm a Montana resident, always have. Check my driver's license.
Well, you do have a rematch coming up with Monica Trinnell, and well, we're in it right now. And how are you feeling about that? Last time when you won, it was just by a small margin.
We're feeling good. I think people have figured out the lies and the truth. And the truth is this country's in trouble. The truth is we face 2 great threats. We face a threat with our border. We have Hamas in Washington, D.C. I spent most of my life hunting down and killing terrorists. I didn't think I'd see them in Washington, D.C., and there are. And the second threat is the Constitution. When you look at freedom of speech, just a few years ago during COVID, is that we could go to Walmart, but we couldn't go to church. Freedom of the conservative message was being suppressed. Our freedoms of carrying a gun. Our freedoms of making sure the government doesn't have the right to look at our personal papers without a warrant or probable cause. All these rights that we take for granted sometimes are under threat. The economy, we can fix it. I'm a believer. America's a great country. Our military is strong. Our people are strong. What man breaks, we can fix. But there are threats that we have to recognize, and as a nation and as a state, we have to do our duty.
All right, well, Congressman Zinke, thank you so much. That's the time we have, and I hope you have fun at the Ravalli County Parade today.
You know what? It's always good to be in Montana. And, my wife and I are going to spend the weekend on the river, and it's great to be here. But, I remain an optimist. Come on, America. Just focus.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and come back anytime.
Well, thank you.
All right, now...